You
Oh,
guys can go ahead and mute yourself. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. Whether you are watching with us right now or you are watching at a later time, we are so happy to have you here with us tonight. My name is Kat Periel, and you are joining us for our Unity and Empowerment event. Once again, we're so happy to have you all here. And just to start very quickly, we're going to go through introductions. And so, whoever is comfortable unmuting yourself and starting, go ahead.
hello. My name is Angelina Jackson. I am part of the and Dragonfly program.
Next.
My name is Nancy Denayak. I'm a LEAP graduate from January of 2020. And I like to be addressed as she.
I'm Cheyenne Tanner, and I am also a LEAP graduate of the most recent class in 2021, and I would like to be addressed as she.
Hi, I'm Geneva Claus. I'm the Director of Community Engagement for LEAP, and I use she, her pronouns.
Heather. Sorry, it's okay.
So sorry, my name is Heather St. Amand, and I am one of the Campaign for Justice organizers here at the ACLU of Florida, and I'm in Tampa.
And so, just to formally introduce myself again, my name is Kat Periel, she, her pronouns, and I am the other organizer for the Campaign for Justice here at the ACLU. And so, before we get started, I'm going to have Geneva tell us a little bit about LEAP, give us a little insight to what they do and how we all came here today.
All right, thanks, Kat. So you will be hearing from the people who can tell you the most about LEAP after I stop talking, but to give a little bit of background, LEAP was started in 2009 and was meant to bring services to people, to women specifically, who are currently incarcerated. Since its inception, it has transformed to offer a whole range of services. When I think about the LEAP program, I think about it kind of in two parts. I think about our in-prison programming, which provides addiction and treatment therapy, as well as entrepreneurship education. And then I also think about our reentry services at our Dragonfly Thrift Boutique, Sorry, I was getting a phone call. At our Dragonfly Thrift Boutique, where we employ graduates of our in-prison programming and also our virtual academy. We also provide housing and have expanded that housing since the start of the program, and also connection to community resources, which are really needed, especially within those first 48 hours upon release. During the pandemic, we also transformed a little bit to offer even more services. So we're currently offering a virtual entrepreneurship academy that is offered nationwide because it's virtual. So we're able to expand outside of our range that usually just serves people in Florida. So just as a little bit of background about LEAP, and I'm sure that Nancy, Angelina, and Cheyenne can speak more to the services and their direct impact.
Well, thank you so much, Geneva, for that. And of course, I want to say thank you to LEAP for everything that they do for these women, the community. And it's amazing to hear that it's now nationwide. And so I think that that is awesome. And so, just so that everyone knows a little bit about how tonight is going to go, we have some questions that each lady is going to answer. And we also just want to preface by saying that they have come on to share their stories. And so we just ask that everyone remain respectful and really show them as much respect as they deserve, which is all of it. And after we have these questions, then we are going to take questions from the audience if you guys have any. So with that, we are going to get started with the first question, which is each of you go ahead and take a little bit of time to share your story, and then we will move forward. So whoever would like to begin, you can go ahead.
Okay, I'll go. My name's Nancy, and I do not have a criminal background. I'm a one-time offender. I was 56 years old when I was arrested for fraud. I took money from my employer, just as a background. And I took a plea of 5 years, and I served 5 years at Homestead Correctional. And I think the main thing that I like to share with people is I was the general public. And what happened was I had my eyes open to what was happening in our criminal justice system and in the Department of Corrections. And I was appalled. It's a very broken system, and I know that's not new news to anybody that's probably listening, but it was news to me. And what I experienced, at least at the female institution, was that these were women who had been abused, who were addicted, who were victims of poverty and mental illness, and that it was women who needed help. And I found my purpose now through this experience. I took full responsibility for my crime. I pay restitution. I'm on probation, and I abide by all that. But what I know is there's a higher power that put me there for a reason, and that was the path that I was to go on, and that's where I am here now. I can say that I'll just briefly say that LEAP was definitely the bright light at the end of a very dark tunnel. But I wouldn't go back and not go through this experience because of all that I learned through it.
Thank you, Nancy, for sharing. And next, Angelina Cheyenne.
My name is Angelina Jackson. I just completed a 4.5-year sentence on the inside, and I am currently on probation. Unlike Nancy, I did do my crime. It just came at the wrong time for me to have gotten caught, because I had thought that I was kind of trying to do some of the right things. I had already been out of prison couple of years prior to this last arrest, and due to the criminal history that I had, I could not get a traditional job. So I just did what I thought I had to do to make sure that my family was going to eat, to make sure that I was going to have, and the normal things, Upon getting ready to be released, I had nowhere to go. My mom had passed. My sister had passed, and I just was kind of left wondering, where I was going to go and what I was going to do. But while all of those things were happening in my life, I was having that last minute of, I can't do this anymore. I'll be 50 next year. And I just couldn't see myself out there toting pistols and selling drugs and just doing what I used to do. I had to do something different. And so I, once again, like Nancy, had to say, LEAP came right on time for me. I had a call out. I went to the orientation. I listened intently and had my little interview afterwards. And it was the thing that I had been really waiting for. I had some apprehensions and some questions I didn't know, but I was willing to step out and just take a chance. And they took a chance on me. So I am a graduate, like Cheyenne, of 2021. We were classmates. And so now I'm here at the LEAP House, and I enjoy it. I have a job at the Dragonfly. And sometimes I struggle with mental health issues. So I know what Nancy speaks about when she says a lot of us inside are struggling with mental health and health issues and all of that stuff on the inside that does not get taken care of. you know? And so then you get released and you still have some of those issues, and then you have to try to make up for all the times that you did not have help. But I'm glad that I have LEAP, and I have my LEAP sisters. Thank you for letting me share it.
No problem. So I'm going to say one, sorry for your loss, but also I'm glad that you're here with us today. So Cheyenne.
I'm Cheyenne Tanner, and when I was arrested, I was 29 years old. This was the first charges that I had been convicted of. I was sentenced to 5 years in prison. I did receive gain time, so ended up only doing 85% of that time. During my time while I was incarcerated, I spent 14 months at FWRC and then transferred to Homestead Correctional Institution. While at Homestead, I was enrolled into what they call modality substance abuse treatment. And that program really is a joke. Okay. So let me back up a little bit. I am a drug addict. I am a recovering addict, and I wasn't given the opportunity to do rehabilitation. It was just a prison sentence, and that was it. So with the modality program, they give you a packet of homework, and you do that homework and you turn it in the next week. There was no counseling. There was no teachers. It was other people trying to teach you things that they didn't even know. So whenever it got closer to the end of my sentence and I was already informed about the LEAP program, it was something that I was looking forward to joining, because I knew the things that they have done for other people and the way it transformed their lives. And entering that program really was the best decision that I made. I got to work on a lot of different things. I worked on my addiction. I worked on the trauma that I have been through. I learned how to a different way of thinking in life. I also did workforce readiness in that program, as well as an entrepreneurship class, and have my own business plan. Since being released, it's been a little over 2 months, and I live at the LEAP Transitional House here in Miami, and I work at the Dragonfly Thrift Boutique. And I'm just trying to learn how to live life differently. And these people really have our back and really try to help us get through that process, because there are times where I look and think, could anything else happen? Like, what's the point of working all these hours and not having anything for myself? What's the point in doing all this? But I have to remember that what my ultimate goal is, and that is to eventually be able to be with my children again and hopefully give back everything that I've learned from this experience.
Thank you, Cheyenne. I think a lot of what you said was important, but the thought of what can you give back from this experience is extremely inspirational. So yeah, thank you again for sharing. And so with that, we're going to jump into our questions. And so the first question, and you guys definitely touched upon a lot of the topics that we're going to talk about with these questions, but we get to go into detail now. So firstly, what resources could have helped you before as well as after being incarcerated?
I'll start. A paid attorney could have helped me tremendously. I had a public defender, and I realized that their caseloads are tremendous, but I did not receive representation, and that is a problem in the system. And so beforehand, that I think, I don't know if the outcome would have been the same, because this is my first experience at this, and last, by the way, but I do feel like it's unfair for you to be assigned defense and it not being defense. So that being said, as far as being in the system, there is no rehabilitation. It does not exist there. It's left up to the nonprofits at the end of your stay there to provide any kind of assistance. It's up to the churches. It's up to volunteers. It is not done by the state. I wish that it was, but it's not. And I did not have drug or alcohol issues. So I had lost my home and all my belongings when I was arrested, which is very common. And I did not have the support of family or friends. So I needed to find a place to go. And literally in the institution, when it was, time for, I had written in several places trying to find a place to go. But because I didn't have drug and alcohol issues, I was turned down because they were only for rehabilitation of those issues. My issue was financial, and that was my crime. I took money from my employer because I was destitute and I was desperate. So I didn't have a place to go, and the homeless shelters, I'm told, don't accept you with a record. I don't know if that's true, but every place that I wrote turned me down. The only option that I had was LEAP, and thank God they were at Homestead, and it happened to be where I was incarcerated. So when I saw that application, I filled it out. I still wasn't sure. I wasn't sure. I didn't know anything about the organization. Back then, I didn't know anybody in the program. I was released in January of 2020, so I've been out a couple of years now. But it was the best decision I ever made. They're wonderful, and they're doing the things that the state is not providing. And that includes finding the issue, finding the source of why you got in trouble in the first place. Going back to that seed that was planted wherever, where you felt so desperate that you acted out in whatever way you did. So they do that through trauma, therapy, through journaling, through all different kinds of things. They have a therapist that comes in, and you get to the bottom of it, and you start working there. And then they help you to prepare for your future. And instead of scaring you and saying, you're never going to get a job again, you're not going to have this opportunity or that, they try to provide a way for you so that you have hope when you're going out. That's my experience.
Thank you. Cheyenne or Angelina, would one of you like to add on?
For me, I started out in Ocala, which is actually closer to where I lived in Gainesville. So when I got transferred to Homestead, which is the only place that they offer the LEAP program inside of the prison, I didn't understand why I was being transferred so far away from home. I didn't understand about God having a plan, or anybody having a plan for me, for that matters. All I know is that these people had taken me thousands of miles away from my home and said that they were depositing me here, and there was nothing to do. And then there was this pandemic raging that while you're on the inside, you can just barely imagine what it's like on the outside. We're just being shuffled around, told you can't do this, told you got to wear this, do this, don't do that, but nobody's explaining anything to you. So for me, it was a mixture of a lot of things going on. And mind you, I had not yet found out that my mom and my sister had passed. Well, I had found out my sister passed, but not yet found out that my mom had died also. So I'm like, what's going on? And then here comes the program, and I'm thinking to myself, well, they're asking if I'm staying down here. I'm like, no, I want to go back to Gainesville. Then I found out my mom passed, and so it's just a mixture of things. Resources is definitely needed. Like Nancy, I could have used a lawyer. And I think when judges decide to give bail or not give bail, they don't think about the life that you had prior to getting arrested. I don't even think they really care. You know, you've had to have been somewhere or came from somewhere. They don't care about your lights not gonna be on or any of that stuff. They just throw you in jail and then set you a bond. And sometimes you don't even get a bond. So for me, it was definitely having somebody that would be an advocate and a liaison for me to help walk certain things through. And then I didn't even see an attorney until the day of court. You know, they put you in there and they give you a number and say, oh, if your letter is from this A to C or A to D, this is your attorney, D to whatever. And that's what the list looks like. And you spend all your time trying to call these people who's not going to come see you until the day of court. You know, if you see them then. Sometimes they'll send somebody else. Oh, they couldn't make it this morning, so I'm a fill in. And they haven't read anything. You know, and so if the case gets continued, then you're sitting in jail for a little bit longer while your business, things that you need to be doing or should be doing, is going and not. And then if you get sentenced, then you've been sentenced without anybody knowing anything about you or haven't heard anything. So, that's it. But LEAP has helped me since I've been out. It's a great program, and I am grateful. You know, they afforded me a job soon as I got out. I was working 2 days after I got released. Had I would have went back home, I wouldn't have had a job that quick. I wouldn't have had a place to stay. I would have had to do whatever it took to gain finances and have a roof over my head. I have family, but we all know that sometimes family is not always the best place to be when they're doing some of the same things that you once were doing or you're trying to change. So that was it for me.
I would have to say resources for before incarceration would definitely be like having more availability for a cheaper like rehabilitation center for drug addicts to go and be able to get clean so that way they can change their lives before that even is a possibility of happening, going to prison. The only thing that I was ever afforded was a 7-day detox. That isn't even enough to even get you past the full detox, much less sending you back on the streets, right back into the same thing you were doing. For a while incarceration, I definitely think that they need better counseling. They do offer mental health counselors, and I never talked to mine. When I would walk in, he'd say, how are you doing this month? Okay. You have any questions for me? No. He's good. Bye. So better counselors like trauma counselor, addiction counselor, somebody that you could feel comfortable talking to about these things that can also give you advice on how to deal with them. Because if it wasn't for the counselor that I got through LEAP, I would not have dealt with the trauma that I've been through. I would not know the tools and coping skills that I know now to keep me in my recovery. So I know that those are really big things that I think are really needed before and after incarceration and during.
That is, how was your bail process? And what effect did it have on you? What effect did it have on the people around you, like your family, your friends? And once again, anyone can just.
I'll start with that. Okay, my bond was extremely high, and it was not doable on any level. Short of my family would have had to, refinance the home, and they weren't willing to do that. So I spent 11 months in county jail, just having my case continued and continued and continued till they were through with me. and they offered me a plea the day before my trial. So I wasn't sure because I had nobody I could trust to advise me. And I took the plea, thank God, because I definitely could be spending the rest of my life incarcerated if I had not taken that plea. And I believe if it had gone to trial, that's what would have happened. In fact, there was a lady that was at county with me who I got to know, and we had very, very similar cases. We had the same public defender, the same prosecutor, the same judge. Our crimes were identical, even in the amount of money. So we worked on our cases together, and I took the plea. She did not, and stayed another year and went to trial, and she's serving 25 years at Lowell right now. I took the 5-year sentence and then 25 years of probation. So I would much rather be out here paying back the money than I would spending the rest of my life there. And unfortunately, that is what's happening with her. She's in her 60s, and it makes me very, very sad. But that is just an example of the system. And part of the reason, I believe, is because of the high bond. And, you know, the way I view the county level and the state level is it's like a hotel, and they keep those beds full. And that's how they help keep those beds full. It's a cycle, and there's no rehabilitation or preparation or help for you before you get out, so you don't come back. And they also keep you in as long as they can, just to keep it going. And that's the sad part. So that was my experience with that. Thank you for letting me share.
No, of course, you guys are here to share. And the reason that we're here to share is so that individuals know what's really going on. And so Angelina or Cheyenne, go ahead. Well, I see Cheyenne's unmuted, so go ahead.
When I was first charged, I was set with no bond. And then when they did finally set a bond, it was set at $260,000. So with it being so high, I was not able to get bonded out. So like Nancy, I sat in county for 10 months and tried to wait out my case as much as possible. And then right at the end, they tried to change my sentence to 7 years. And they ended up going back to the 5 years if I agreed to signing the plea right then. So I was trying to get my parents to bond me out, but to do that, they would have had to put up a house title and pay money and all this kind of stuff. And that was just too much for them at that time.
For me, my bond also was high. I knew I wasn't going to be able to move at that point, so I immediately set for a bond reduction, which my judge hated me, and I think that it's a crime for judges to have their own personal input. And I think that when they have their own personal sights set on you as like they don't like you for whatever reason. For instance, one of the judges that had been on a case of mine one time, his daughter had gotten killed by a drug dealer or something, and so he hated all drug dealers. And then I had a judge one time that hated people for, I guess, running traffic stops. I'm just naming some things. But because of those issues, they bring their personal stuff to the bench, and so they take it out on you. And so one of the judges had said that, before I get off the bench, I want to give out 1 million years. You know, I think when they make statements like that, they should not be allowed to continue to rule, because then you're showing a prejudice. And so when I went before my judge for bond reduction, between the bond reduction that you have in Alachua County, where you have a mental health specialist come in to talk to you, and then you have what they have, court services or something, somebody, you have all these people that just come rushing in, asking you all this stuff right before first appearance. You have no idea who's talking about what. And so I went in like, huh, what? And so when I got before my judge, not realizing he had already made his decision about whether or not he was going to reduce my bond, I said, well, I thought that I was going to leave because this person had came and spoke to me. And he said, you're not going anywhere. And so that was the end of my bond reduction. But yeah, the bond hearings and all of that, it's a joke. All of it's a joke. I think they're making a lot of money just housing us, piling us up on like sardines. You have people sleeping on the floor, inhumane conditions. You know, my son, who's currently incarcerated, he was telling me about how he got in a fight with a guy that they were trying to put in his room who had COVID. How do you do that? Here's a kid telling you that he's sick, and he doesn't want to make somebody who's not sick, and you put him in there, and my son ended up with COVID. You know that, but what am I to do? What can I do? You know, I called the jail and I fussed, but what else can I do? You know, and as a mom, it breaks my heart, and it makes me want to run to him and be there for him, you know, and it's hard. You know, but the people at the jail aren't listening, and our legislators and them aren't listening either. These conditions need to change and quick, because we're losing lives with COVID as it is.
Yeah. Once again, I'm going to keep on saying thank you guys for sharing, because it is, I really do appreciate it. And I'm sure that everyone watching appreciates it as well. And I know that with talking about bail and bond, I hear like common themes, like feeling pressure to take a plea, overcrowding, not being able to really prepare yourself really for your trial and for life, and what's to come. And so I really do think that these are issues that need to be addressed. They're issues that we want to address and want to change. Heather, you can take it away.
All right, y'all. I want to echo Kat and just say I really, really appreciate y'all for being here and for sharing. Seriously. So we can go ahead with the next question, which is, as a woman, did you feel safe in the facility, and were any of your concerns ever heard?
I'll start. I didn't feel safe, except that I have such a strong faith in God. That's what got me through prison, period. But, and county. But what I soon learned was that it wasn't the other women that I was incarcerated with that I needed to fear. It was who was minding the gate and who we had our lives without our choice entrusted to. I was really, really glad that there were cameras. I know that right before my incarceration at Homestead, there weren't cameras, and I heard stories of what that was like. And I thank God that there were cameras. And I knew exactly where they were. And I knew exactly where it was safe. Unfortunately, there's men officers, and you can imagine the type of man that's attracted to that job. And I'm not saying it's always the case by any means, please don't misunderstand me, but it does attract predators. So, you know, I knew how to handle myself, and I realized I have a strength inside of myself I didn't know I had before this experience. But I do know several stories of other women who weren't as fortunate, and it's very much you're like a child there, because you have, although you have no responsibilities there, you also have no control. and you have no power over anything, when you go to the bathroom, when you eat, anything at all. And so you become childlike, and, I think that pretty much sums it up. You're at the mercy of who has the power there, and you don't have the power there.
For me, as a victim of molestation and sexual assault, no, I did not. I think recently they changed the dynamics of the nightgown wear or the nightwear that we have, because I remember one time it was these white see-through things, and so I didn't like wearing those, so I would wear sweatpants, a sweatshirt that had been converted into sweatpants, or I'd wear my uniform pants until it got nighttime, and then they start making that against the rules for you to be in your blues after 10 o'clock. I've had men officers walk into the bathroom where I was. I've had them peer in. Matter of fact, I even had one stand there one time while I was in the shower saying, "Get out. Get out." And I got really loud, and he was like, "I will spray you." And I was like, "You're going to probably have to spray me." And their thing is, it's not gawking at you unless they're looking at you for more than 5 minutes. To me, it's gawking if you're looking at me more than a minute. I don't belong to you. I'm a married woman. You're standing there. I'm naked. I am vulnerable. And then for some of the officers to walk the floor constantly. I understand walking the floor to do your job, but some of them not walking the floor to do their job. They're walking the floor to make harassing comments or comments that's geared to sex or whatever it is. So no, and I've heard some comments made to others. I didn't have a whole lot done, but just even a few of unwanted comments is enough to make you want to Earl, and those that are respectable, it makes them look bad, because here you have this one officer that's always doing stuff, and I'm not saying anything that nobody hasn't heard, because, and Lola is famous for it, they have a lot of their officers that have gotten locked up for relations with other inmates and stuff like that. So it's something that's on the rise, and it hasn't just started. I mean, we've had wardens, chaplains, in all forms at the institution engaging in relations, and I think it is wrong. So yeah, it happens.
I too did not feel safe while being incarcerated. While in Ocala at the reception center, the dorms are open bay, and the bathroom has a big opening that you can see right in, and all the showers are lined up, and all the toilet stalls are lined up. You can see right in. You could see through to the window in the officer station. And when it comes to the second part of the questions, were our concerns being heard? No, we couldn't even make concerns. It was, you make a concern and you take that risk of going to confinement or them retaliating to you. You go to the higher ups about something, you better be careful, because when that officer's back or that captain's back, they're going to retaliate, and who knows, find what, makes something up and put you in confinement, or who knows what. So we are made to keep our mouth closed. When Tallahassee comes around, if you say something to them, that's it. There is no letting your concerns be heard in prison at all whatsoever. The only way your concerns do get heard is if you have family members that are active in your sentence and are willing to call the higher ups and make these calls. And then even still, you might get repercussions from that as well.
Thank y'all for sharing that information. We'll move on to the next question now, which is, what resources or rehabilitation services were offered at the facilities that you were placed in?
I think we've spoken a bit about that, but there really weren't any. When I first was incarcerated, I worked. There was nothing at actually there was more at the county level, than the state level. They did have a drug program there, although I wasn't eligible for that, but they had that there, and they had. I would say the only rehabilitative type service or show of kindness, I would say, was from the churches and the volunteers. And I found the same at the state level. They didn't have even the education program there, which I was fortunate enough to be involved in that and work in that program. But the classes are so small. It's just such a small percentage of people that get into those classes to get their GED or to get whatever program they have there, like cosmetology, or I was in the auto tech program. Our classes were like 15, 20 people, and you've got 700 women there. So, it's just a very small percentage that gets anything positive out of that experience. And especially the girls who aren't incarcerated long enough, they're not even offered that. There were so many women there that were there for 2 to 3 years, and they're not eligible for any of those programs. So they're just sitting there with nothing happen, stewing in their juices, and then they're released back out. And the rest of DOC is punitive. I used to call it military boot camp without the honor, because that's what it feels like there. It's just very, very structured, very, very rule-oriented, punitive, and the rehabilitation is not happening there except through volunteers and outside programs who are even allowed in, which LEAP is fortunate that they're allowed in so that they can start the process before you're released.
Well, I was housed at Lowell. I know that during the reception process, there are no services usually offered. I don't think it's geared toward rehabilitation. When I got to Lowell main unit, I had a little bit more leeway as to things that I could do. There's education. There were vocational programs. And so I found myself, while incarcerated back in 2007, I obtained my GED. And I went into a vocation, which was cosmetology, and I obtained my cosmetology certificate. And this last time while incarcerated, I had the option and the ability to gain my PC support certificate and go up for my state board licensure for cosmetology, which I went ahead and took the opportunity and did. So, they have some programs, but they're not geared for long timers. Anything over 5 years, I don't think they're putting people in. And those are, not to discredit the short timers, but some of the long timers are in need of some of those classes, because what are they going to do should they get free? Nobody's guaranteed to just stay behind bars unless you go to execution or anything. So they need to start educating them and giving them job training and opening up doors for trauma and substance abuse training and stuff like that for those people as well. But that's not available. Unfortunately, during the time when they were offering me modality, I was not quite ready for it. So I did not take that opportunity. But then LEAP came along and they offered trauma and addiction, which was even greater than the modality program for me because it helped me to address some of those childhood traumas that I had been living with for so many years that had continued to haunt me and send me back spiraling back to drugs and alcohol and back to the streets and back to those people that really didn't mean me any good. While doing Thinking for a Change, I learned new techniques, new ways of thinking things through. You know, play the tape all the way through. If I do this, this happens. If I do that, that happens. Ways I had never thought of before has helped me, and it continues to help me even today. To a degree, I struggle with certain things, but it helps me to know that I'm not just flying off the handle doing something just because it feels right. I am actually thinking it through. And though sometimes I don't like the outcome, it is what it is. I also have my LEAP sisters that I can go to, and I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. And they'll say, you know what? Yeah, that's what you might be thinking of, but that's not how you need to handle it. And they're not making me do it the way that they want, but they're helping me see what I need to see without forcing their opinions or their thoughts on me. So that helps. And we need more programs like LEAP, more houses to house these people in when they're coming out of prison so that they can have the same safety net that we have right now, because it does get rough. I think I would have long been back to prison. I've been out 6 months now, and that's the longest I have ever been out, drug-free, not in trouble, not running from my probation officer, not ducking and dodging her. When she calls, I'm thinking she's probably gonna want me to come in and drop. I'm good. I have never been like that before. Usually it's like, I ain't going in there. They're going to have to catch me, So it's a good feeling. And now I'm working. I am employed. I mean, I've been employed before. Don't think I have a job. But I am gainfully employed. I'm legal. I'm not running from anybody. My license is valid. I got I've gained my children back in my life. I have a good relationship going with them. My family is coming together. Life is good right now for me. And I'm like at one of the sweetest spots I've ever been in. I'm doing things in the community and doing things with my LEAP sisters that mean something. LEAP offers us the ability to get out there. Even being here with you guys is a step for us to be out there, to let our stories be heard, to get things brought to the limelight so that we can start getting some of this stuff taken care of and stop these quick pleas and these judges from just doing what they want. And most of all, stopping these officers that work inside the prisons from doing the things that they do that violate our constitutional rights. It's wrong. And so I thank y'all. Y'all keep thanking us, but I thank y'all for having us here so that we can talk about some of these issues and get it out there so that we can all together make an end to this.
Yeah.
And there's some people that's hoping that 65% hurry up and get passed so that they can get out because they're tired of the foolishness as well.
Yes, we are working hard. And part of that we're going to ping pong this because it does have a lot to do with you guys. And so I know that you spoke a lot about LEAP. And so I think that one of the resounding things that I heard was support. Having support before any of the decisions that you made happen because, we're not our worst decision. We're so much more than that. And I think that LEAP is really providing you guys the opportunity to see that with all of their mental health counseling. Like you guys said, one of you mentioned journaling, which I also journal. I think it's like one of the best things in the world you can do. And so, yeah. Before we go on to the next question, I'm going to do a really quick call out. If anyone watching has anything that they'd like to ask the ladies, any words of encouragement you'd like to provide or anything like that, you can drop it into the chat so that we can see it. But with that, we're gonna go on to the next question. And with this, I know we spoke about it a little bit before, but if you guys can go into just a little bit more detail about if you guys had any opportunities to reduce your sentencing with rehabilitative credits, also referred to as gain time, and how was that experience for you guys? Or even experience of, we're not going to use any names, but if you guys know anybody that you can share their story on behalf of them because they couldn't be here with us tonight, you can also feel free to do that.
Well, I was in a lot of programs, but the thing is, they say that they give you 60 days credit for completing GED or completing a vocation, but yet and still that 60 days does not take you out past your 85% date. So it doesn't matter how many courses, how many things you get into. You can take on the whole prison system of courses, but it's not going to put you out past your 85% days. All it will do is help you if you have lost days, like say you've gotten in trouble and you're missing 20 days or 30 days or 50 days. It'll only help fill those days back in. They're only giving you what they took back from you, but gaining it through real bit. I think I've only heard of that in the federal system, not the state.
One of the other ladies, do you guys have anything to add?
Go ahead, Cheyenne.
Okay, so I was awarded 10 days a month for gain time as long as I didn't receive CCs or a DR. For most of my time, I was good and I tried not to get in any kind of trouble. I did get into trouble and I lost some gain time, and I did get to make all that gain time back by being on good behavior again. Like she said, the programs, like the vocational programs, if you complete the program, but say your score isn't high enough on the TABE test, you don't get those credits, those time. Your score has to be high enough on the TABE test, and you have to complete the course to receive that 60 days. And still, like she says, it goes towards your 85% date. So if you're good behavior already and you're doing this course, you've already gotten all your gain time, then you're doing the course only for you, which is also a good reason to do the course. But there's no extra gain time. It only goes towards what you get already.
I would just say ditto on all of that. That's exactly what's happening. You're going to do 85%, period.
And so once again, thank you for your answers. And so we're about to run out of time. And so I really quick just want to give you guys some shout outs and love that you guys are getting in the comments. So I want to make sure, I don't want to butcher anybody's names. I'm going to do them the best that I can. So Anika said, proud of you guys. Keep doing what you're doing. Patricia said, I'm so proud of my sisters and their success. Malia, you ladies are so brave. Thank you for sharing your stories. Gabby said, thank you so much for sharing. Leap does such amazing work, and you all have been such an inspiration to listen to. Onward with prayer hands. Ladies, Emma said, ladies are my heart. I was given a vision about a safe place for women. Last year I have acquainted myself. And so we do have one question, and that is from Peggy. And Peggy, we're going to answer your question in just a little bit, but we have one more question that you guys can answer really quickly. If only one of you wants to do that, that's fine. And it is, what barriers have you all faced since returning? Because it's a really important question, and I want to make sure that we get to it.
I just want to say really quickly that I have not experienced any barriers because of LEAP. I would not have had a place to live. I would not have had a place to work. I was released, as I said before, in January of 2020. We all know that COVID hit in March of 2020. And can you imagine being a 60-year-old ex-felon in the middle of a pandemic trying to find a job? So I am so grateful to this program because they stayed true to course and took care of me, gave me a place to live. I was picked up by the case manager at the bus stop and fed and taken to a safe place. You're like a child after you've been incarcerated. I would wait for all 4 lanes to be exited of traffic before I would cross the street because I was afraid, because you haven't seen cars in years, literally. So it's hard to relate to, but there's a lot of post-traumatic stress syndrome that happens. And if you didn't have that before you were incarcerated, you will have it after you're incarcerated. And that has to be addressed immediately. So basic needs: food, a job, a place to go. If it wasn't for this program, I wouldn't have had that. So thank you, LEAP. Love you guys.
Yes, I too also would have to say that because of the LEAP program, the only barriers that I have been facing is with like child support and filing for divorce. But thanks to LEAP and reaching out to them, they have helped me with that as well, with getting my divorce started, with putting in having an attorney help me put in my papers for my modification for my child support. They are with me 100% of the way. And it's great to know that we have so many people that believe in us and have our back no matter what. Like, no matter what we're going through, there's always one person that we can call. And even if you call that one person and they don't answer, there's another one, and it's a great feeling to have that. It really is.
Yeah. I didn't face too many barriers either. I have some extenuating medical issues, so I ran into some issues here and there about that. But and the fact that I'm not from Miami, and it was kind of difficult trying to navigate around Miami on the bus and trying to learn where to go and how to get there. But for the most part, like everyone else has already stated, our basic stuff was already met. A job. We don't live far from the job, so it wasn't like that was an issue trying to get there. So yeah, the job is taken care of. The food is taken care of. The bed, the living, all of that is here for us. So if there's any barriers, it's within yourself at that point, because everything else is already provided for. So thanks to LEAP and the Dragonfly and my LEAP sisters.
So you guys really had the support of LEAP to help you to not face some of the barriers that, we hear other people are facing when it comes to getting work and getting housing after being released. So basically, we need more LEAPs everywhere.
Yes, definitely. We need more LEAPs and more jobs that will help sustain another house or more houses. We need to start putting houses up in all cities, everywhere.
Yes.
And we need employers who are open to considering hiring returning citizens.
Yes.
Being more open and giving opportunities and second chances. We need that desperately. And we also need people that are willing to rent a home for us,
Yeah.
So those things are needed.
Yes. So once again, thank you guys so much for sharing your stories. Unfortunately, we can't stay on much longer as we're approaching the end. But Geneva, if you don't mind just telling everyone, because there are a few questions about how we can support LEAP more, as well as support these ladies a little bit more. So please take it away and share.
Yeah, thanks so much. And thank you everyone for the questions, for having us tonight. And also, of course, Nancy, Angelina, and Cheyenne for being open and sharing. So there's, of course, so much support needed. And of course, we wish we could offer our program throughout the whole state, throughout the whole country, because we know how much that support is needed, especially with those basic necessities like we've talked about, like housing, employment. Those are really necessities in order to reduce recidivism in all of our communities, because without your basic needs met, you have to fall back on choices to survive. And that's not how we want anyone, or that's not how I want anyone in our communities to have to live. But some ways that you can directly support, like the ladies mentioned, talking to your friends, your family, your employer, anyone in your circle that you know that does employ people. Employment is a huge issue, especially with people who have a criminal record. And so talking to people and trying to break down those barriers and that stigma that people face when trying to find employment is really important. Specific to LEAP, we are, of course, as a nonprofit, always looking for donations. With those donations, we're able to expand our services, provide more housing, provide more employment, open new locations so that we can expand our range of services, expand our virtual offerings as well to serve even more women. We also have a thrift boutique, like some of the ladies mentioned, that they're employed at. We're always looking for donations there. And so feel free to donate there as well. And lastly, sharing is caring. You can always follow us on our social media, and that's another way to spread awareness and get the message out about changing the narrative about how the general public speaks about and thinks about people who are formerly incarcerated and currently incarcerated. And we're always sharing content there. Our @ is Leap for Ladies on all platforms. And our website is leapforladies.org. So you can visit us on our website as well to get involved. And then lastly, we're always looking for volunteers as well. And you can reach out to us via our website or social media.
Thank you, Geneva. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Angelina. Thank you, Cheyenne, so much for joining us tonight. Once again, I'm going to say thank you so much for sharing your stories. Without everyone hearing these stories, nobody really knows what's going on and how they can help. So that's why I'm so extremely grateful for you guys. I can see from all the questions that we might have to do this again. So let's see if we can make that happen. But if anyone is interested in knowing what the ACLU of Florida is doing when it comes to our campaign for justice and what we're doing here in Florida for criminal justice reform, there are a few links that you'll see in the comments. You can sign up to volunteer with us and get more information. We also have 2 trainings coming up. One is a Know Your Rights training. And so that's what to do in certain situations, such as recording the police, if you're arrested or if you're at a protest, especially right now with how protests stand in Florida. So it's really great information. And then if you're wanting to be a leader in the fight in the campaign for justice and for criminal justice reform, we have our activist leader training, which will give you the tips and tricks that you need in order to be a leader amongst your family, friends, as well as your community to make a difference in criminal justice reform. And so with that, I thank you all, those of you watching and everyone on the screen, for joining us this evening. If you're watching later, thanks for watching. And like Geneva said, sharing is caring. Feel free to share this information that you learned here today. And with that, have a great night, everyone.
Thanks so much. Have a good night.
Thanks. Bye.